Hey, it's Tina Forsyth here. I was asked the other day about how do I create content on a regular basis? What is it that I do personally to be putting out videos and articles and such on a regular basis? So I thought about it. First and foremost, I was very touched to be asked that question because it's important to me that what I share matters and connects with other people. And of course, not everything connects with everybody all the time. Absolutely. That's never going to be the case. But I do know, and I've really come to see and embrace in the past probably 2 years in particular, that people hire me because of what I put out there. People reach out to connect with me because of what I'm putting out there, because of the videos, because of the articles, because of the posts online, because of what I'm willing to show up and say. And so how do you create content? How do you create content and put it out there? And this is, of course, assuming that you believe that creating content is important, which it is for the most part in today's business world. Three things I want to share with you. Number one, know your voice. The number one most important thing, whether you're putting articles like writing or speaking, video, blogging, whatever it is, regardless of the format, anytime you try to be something that you're not, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. I think we've all been in that space where it's like, oh, I should write an article about X, or oh, I should do a video about this, or everybody's telling me I should, or whatever it is, or I see so-and-so doing it this way, so I'm going to do it that way too. If it's not coming from the inside out, whatever it is that you want to share, it is not going to land. It is not going to connect with the people around you. Now, you may not know your voice yet. You may not feel like you know what your voice is, and that's totally fine. The beauty of the world we live in today is you can literally create something, put it out there, and you'll know first and foremost if it connected with you, but then you also get to see, does it connect with other people around you? And what I've come to see over the years is there are times I put something out there where I think it's the best thing I've ever done, and it falls flat, right? Like not everybody, I don't get the reaction that I was expecting or hoping to get. There are times I put things out there where it was just on the cuff, in the moment, made it up, threw it together after grabbing my coffee in the morning, and boom, it turns into this big deal. I get this really strong response to it. All of that to say that because I've been willing to put myself out there and share my perspective, share my point of view, and also because I'm paying attention to what people are responding to, it's between those two pieces that you really start to find your voice. And so just be willing to live in that space, right? Be willing to live in the space of here's what I want to say. Here's what I want to say. And here's what people want from me, or here's what people are responding to. Here's the things that are landing and connecting. When you bring those two together, that's where the magic can happen. So tip number one, know your voice. Tip number two, know your rhythm. This one is really, really important because traditional advice will tell you, oh, hey, if you want to post and share, daily online, or if you want to post and share 3 times a week or once a week or whatever it is, here's what you do. You sit down and you write out a great big calendar of topics and exactly what you're going to do. And you can ideally even then first make that giant list of what you're going to talk about or what you're going to write and share about. And then even better if you can create it all ahead of time. I remember a friend of mine years ago sharing how at the beginning of the year, she would sit down with her calendar, she would lay out 52 weeks, entire year's worth of once weekly content that she would send out. And not only that, she would spend that first week of the year creating all the content and getting it all done ahead of time so that she didn't have to do it anymore after that. Now, I have to tell you, there's a part of me that was in awe, like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. How do you do that? I do not work that way. My natural rhythm is this, and I've come to really embrace this within the past year or so. Up until then, I was always trying to schedule ahead. I'm not a schedule ahead. I have to create in the moment. What happens for me when I'm thinking about, okay, what am I going to talk about? What do I want to write an article about? What do I want to share this week? What do I want to share today? when I'm thinking about the what the heck do I talk or write about question, for me, what I've come to honor and embrace is that things come to me in the moment, and they also have a deadline attached to them. An energetic shelf life, if you will. Meaning I might be having a conversation with a client. I might be leading one of our group calls, a mastermind call. I might be doing a training. I might be playing around on Facebook, reading other people's posts and sharing. I might be doing various things. Ideas come to me throughout the day while I'm doing what I'm doing in my regular business life. And first and foremost, I need to catch those ideas. So I always have a little pad of sticky notes around me. I've also started writing things into my phone and such too, in a notepad as well. I need to catch the idea. Like if I'm talking to a client and I share something or they ask a question and there's this great conversation, it's like, ooh, that would be a good article. I write it down on my sticky note, stick it on my desk. But here's the thing. I have a shelf life attached to that idea. I have a shelf life attached to that topic. If I don't take and create something with it within, say, sometimes it's a day or two, maybe even up to a week in some cases. But if I don't catch it in a timely manner, then it's gone. I can look back at lists of ideas and article ideas that I've put together over, say, the past month. And I can look at something that 3 weeks ago I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, that would be a great article. I need to write that. Woohoo, this is awesome. And I'll look at it and be like, like I'm not feeling it. I'm not feeling it. I'm not energized to write it. It's not interesting. Literally, for me, my personal rhythm of creation, of content creation is I have to catch it. I have to catch it when it happens, and I have to actually bring it to life within a certain time frame. If I don't, it's gone. If I don't, it's gone. And so I can't sit here and lay out a month's worth of content ahead of time. It does not work for me. And I will tell you, every time I've done that, here's what happens. I lay out a month ahead of time. Maybe it's a few times a week or once a week, whatever it is. I lay out a month ahead of time. And then I get to like week 2 of creating this. And I'm like, no, I don't want to talk about that now. It's no longer interesting. The idea has gone past its shelf life. So for me, my rhythm is, and what I've really learned to honor and also to rein in and to be purposeful with is I have to catch it when it comes. I have to catch the idea when it comes, and I have to bring it to life within a certain time frame. And I need to be creating content on a regular basis, or else it's gone, or else I'm going to lose the stuff that's coming up for me along the way. Now, this leads me to point number 3, which is commit to a frequency of how often you want to be posting and sharing. So I've been, from a newsletter perspective, sending out my newsletter perspective, I've been very much a weekly send out the newsletter person for years now. I mean, gosh, probably even close to 10 years. It's been a long time. Now, haven't been 100% with it. There's times I would, times I wouldn't. But very much, weekly cycle. Send out a newsletter weekly. Boom, ba-doom, 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 ba-doom. My coach that I'm working with now challenged me. This was probably a couple months ago now, maybe 6 weeks ago, and said, hey, you know what? I think you need to amp up how often you're sending out your newsletter. Go from once a week to 3 times a week. And 3 times a week, just be sending out content, right? Like sending out articles, sending out a video, sending out something of value. These aren't promotional type of emails. So at first it's like, oh my gosh, it's a pain in the butt enough to even create something once a week. That's how it was feeling. How am I suddenly going to start doing this 3 times a week? I have to tell you, the amping up the frequency and committing to it. So of course I had to say, like, I'm going to do this and make it happen. If I wasn't going to commit to it, it wasn't going to happen, plain and simple. But when I committed to it, that meant I was going to create the content. That actually created, there's that idea in science that nature abhors a vacuum. And in a sense, it's almost like harnessing the energy of that to say that if I'm going to commit to creating something 3 times a week, nature abhors a vacuum, which means nature wants to fill the time up in those 3 times a week. Instead of it feeling like a royal pain in the butt, which I honestly expected it to feel like, it's actually become a source of creative, it's amped up the momentum around my ability to create content. And it's definitely amped up the amount of enjoyment that I get from doing it. And so this creating 3 times a week. Now, of course, I'm being purposeful. I've got Tuesday mornings booked off so I can create my content. For me, the format is 1 video, 2 written pieces every week that I want to be sending out to my list and sharing. And alongside that, I continue to post and share on social media. Not as committed with social media. That piece for me is a little bit of whatever comes up, I'll share. So I might go through a period of time where I'm kind of posting daily. I might go through a week or 2 where I'm really not. And I'm okay with that there. I'm okay with that ebb and flow there. But you need to commit to a frequency. You need to commit to a frequency. If you're not going to commit to a frequency, and commit, of course, means you're going to get it done no matter what. If you're not going to commit to a frequency, then it's just not going to happen. Because when you commit to that part of it is it'll pull it together. It'll start to pull some of this out of you. And it might feel really uncomfortable and annoying and all kinds of things in the beginning. But once you get into a flow, these are the 3 things that have worked really, really well for me. I mean, knowing my voice, and I think our voice continues to develop over time. I think the best compliment I've ever received around my voice, and it's one that I feel really proud of, it's a space I aim to play in, is I had someone, a colleague of mine, I wouldn't say a friend per se, but somebody I know through the business world and have been connected with, when we saw each other at an event a couple of years ago. She's just like, Tina, I read what you're sharing. So first of all, I'm like, you're reading it. Yay! That's always a good thing to hear. And she's like, I just love the way that you will point out and talk about how here's what's not working, here's why it's not working, and here's what to do about it. And I thought that was a really beautiful way to encapsulate the voice that I'm creating. I aim to be a little bit pokey at times, maybe even a little bit ranty at times with certain things. I definitely have a point of view on certain things. And at the same time too, though, it's like, here's what we do about it. Here's what you need to consider. I always want to bring in that practical element to help stuff land. That is not a voice that I developed overnight. It is maybe not the voice I'll continue to have. I think that piece evolves over time. But knowing your voice, start playing with it. You can't know your voice until you're willing to put it out there. That's the bottom line with that piece. Honor your rhythm. If you are not the schedule everything in advance, write it all out in advance type of person, great. I hereby give you permission to let it go and set that free. But the other side of that coin is then, you need to learn how to honor the creative rhythm when it does show up. You need to be able to harness those things and create the space for yourself to create within that rhythm. If it's different for you, if you're more of an in-the-moment creator like I am, make sure you create space for that to happen. Otherwise, you're just going to end up with a giant list of ideas that you're not feeling anymore and nothing gets done. Nothing gets done. And of course, last but not least, commit to your frequency. Once a week, 3 times a week. I dare say in this world, if you want your voice to matter, you probably need to be showing up more than you think you do. You probably need to be showing up more than you maybe wish you had to in various ways. But you need to be saying something that matters as well too. So those are my tips around content creation. I'm curious to hear from you. What is it that works for you? Or where do you feel like you get stuck in this? I mean, it's by no means my expertise to help people create content. It's not something I do with or for clients. It's not something I'll certainly advise private clients on stuff like this. But so it's not to say I have some magical solution or here's a program to buy around this. But I'm really curious for you, like where do you struggle with creating content? Do you struggle with, I don't know what to talk about? Do you struggle with, I can't find the time to do it? Do you struggle with, I don't like doing it? I don't like doing it. That's another one that comes up. Sometimes I really think too, the I don't like doing it piece. If you want to have a voice that's being heard out there, you'll have to find the piece that you do like. But maybe that means don't do video and just do writing, or vice versa. Maybe that means do video, speak, be heard, but don't write. You don't have to do the writing, or there can be whatever combinations that come into play with stuff like that. Maybe it is, I commit to something, I do really good for a while, and then I fall off the wagon with it. Maybe it is I'm putting stuff out there, but people aren't connecting with it. I mean, there's so many facets that come up around the idea of content creation that I find quite fascinating. This is a really important piece of the business journey these days. So I would love to hear from you. What's working? What groove have you found for yourself? Where do you feel like you're struggling? And hopefully you found a nugget or two of wisdom or something you can take and use from my sharings here today as well. All right, it's Tina Forsyth. Take care. Bye now.